There is a moment in life when everything around you seems to freeze, and no matter how hard you try to stay calm, you know your future has just changed forever. That moment found me on a quiet Tuesday morning when the human resources manager quietly pushed a document across the conference table and told me I had exactly 24 hours to accept a 60% pay cut or leave the company, as if 8 years of loyalty could be erased with a single sheet of paper. My name is Rachel Carter, and I am 37 years old, with an 11-year-old daughter named Emma, who depends on me for everything. Every mortgage payment, every grocery trip, every school expense, and every doctor appointment rested on my shoulders alone after my marriage ended several years earlier. So hearing those words felt less like a business decision and more like someone threatening to pull the floor out from beneath our lives. When I first joined Horizon Freight Solutions, it was a small transportation company operating from an old brick warehouse on the edge of Columbus, Ohio, where everyone knew each other by name and every success felt personal. I started as a customer support coordinator, but I stayed late almost every evening, solved problems no one else wanted to touch, and slowly earned the trust of clients who eventually became the foundation of the company's biggest contracts. Over the years, I climbed through every level of the business until I became director of client relations, leading a talented team that handled the company's most valuable accounts across the country. Those clients did not stay because of fancy presentations or expensive marketing campaigns. They stayed because I answered every late-night call, fixed every emergency shipment, remembered birthdays, and treated every customer like a partner instead of another number on a monthly report. Everything changed when Horizon was purchased by a massive national corporation called Titan Logistics Group, whose executives promised exciting opportunities, unlimited growth, and a brighter future for every employee. During a polished company meeting filled with applause and rehearsed smiles, for the first few months, nothing seemed different, except new email addresses and endless meetings. But before long, experienced employees quietly disappeared one after another, while corporate leaders described every layoff as a strategic business improvement that would supposedly strengthen the company for the future. A week after the takeover, the pressure became impossible to ignore because my team was cut in half while our workload doubled, and every manager who questioned the changes quietly disappeared from the office without even getting the chance to say goodbye. I kept telling myself that if I worked harder, everything would be fine, but the long nights at my laptop were stealing time from my daughter, and she finally asked why I never smiled anymore when I came home. The meeting with Human Resources lasted less than 15 minutes, yet it felt like the longest conversation of my life because the director calmly explained that my position was being restructured and my salary would immediately drop by 60% if I wanted to keep my job. I looked down at the paper, took a slow breath, and simply said that I needed 24 hours to think about their offer, even though my heart was breaking inside and all I could think about was how I would protect my daughter if I lost everything. I walked to my car without remembering how I got there, then sat behind the steering wheel staring at the company building while tears finally poured down my face because I honestly believed I was about to lose the life I had spent years building for my daughter and myself. As I tried to calm down, my phone suddenly rang and the screen showed the name Daniel Brooks, a former executive from Horizon who had left months earlier to join Velocity Transport, the same competitor our executives constantly complained about. I almost ignored the call, but something told me to answer, and within a few minutes, Daniel completely changed the direction of my day by saying his new company had been looking for someone with my experience and reputation. Before hanging up, he asked if I could meet his CEO for breakfast the next morning before work, and for the first time since leaving the HR office, I felt a small spark of hope that maybe one phone call really could change everything. The next morning, I met Daniel and the CEO of Velocity Transport at a quiet coffee shop across town, expecting nothing more than an informal conversation, but instead they welcomed me like someone they had wanted on their team for a long time. After listening to everything that had happened, the CEO smiled, slid an offer letter across the table, and offered me a leadership position with a higher salary than I had ever earned, flexible hours, and health benefits that fully covered my daughter without asking me to sacrifice my dignity. Before we finished breakfast, the CEO shared one more piece of information that explained everything, because he had learned Titan Logistics planned to shut down our entire regional office within the next year after replacing experienced employees with cheaper workers. At that moment, I realized the 60% Percent pay cut was never meant to save my job. It was only a way to pressure loyal employees into staying long enough to help the company before they were eventually pushed out anyway. I returned to the office that afternoon with complete confidence, and when the human resources manager asked whether I had accepted the reduced salary, I calmly placed my resignation letter on the table before thanking them for reminding me that loyalty means nothing when respect disappears. The room fell silent as I explained that I had already accepted a better position with Velocity Transport, and for the first time since the takeover, the executives realized they had underestimated the one employee who had spent years protecting their most valuable client relationships. As I walked out carrying a small box filled with family photos and personal memories, I felt something far more valuable than relief because I was finally leaving behind fear and choosing my own worth instead. That evening, I picked up Emma from school with a genuine smile on my face, and as she hugged me tightly without knowing everything that had happened, I realized the best decision of my career had begun with the very phone call I almost ignored.